AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Off and running hour number 2 after further review, presented by Relief Windows here on a Monday. Musso in for Moscona. Skunk continuing to recover. Wish him obviously speedy recovery there. Hopefully he's back here with us sooner rather than later. But for now, I'll take you here the rest of the way between hour 2 and hour number 3. Great hour 1 already in the books. We are wall-to-wall LSU and Saints here on today's show. I mean, it's August 10th. Both teams are well into camp. That's kind of where we should be. So still plenty to get to. We haven't even gotten to Dylan Radins and his ACL yet and what that means for the Saints. Sam Leavitt speaking with the media, obviously, here today for the very first time in an LSU uniform. We're about to get to more of that. Ross Jackson still to come here in his normal spot here during Saints training camp. Give us all the deets there with what took place over the weekend. Saints had an off day today. They'll be back on the field tomorrow. But it was an eventful weekend over there on Airline Drive. So asked Ross, said, "Hey man, even though they're off, you want to just hop on and kick some of it around?" He says, "Of course, dude." So we'll get Ross on with us a little bit later on as well. But we'll begin hour number 2, the same place we began hour number 1, and that's with Sam Leavitt speaking real words into a microphone in front of the LSU media. I mean, he was so impressive. I really, really enjoyed listening to the 10, 11 minutes or so that we all got to speak with Sam Leavitt here on Monday. Earlier in the show, we talked about his health and his journey and recovery. He detailed all of that. If you missed that, catch it on demand, presented by Breck Golf, golf.breck.org. The other interesting thing with this, and that's the thing to remember, right, is why it's been such a wait and such anticipation to hear Sam Leavitt speak to the media is because there's so much to ask him. Obviously, there's the health, but there's also, hey, man, your portal process was really crazy. What went down with that? And that was covered here on Monday. I mean, remember that. Sam Leavitt, just his exit from Arizona State was highly publicized and a little messy, teammates, things of that nature. There was the awards banquet or whatnot that he didn't attend, with this team because he was entered into the portal and whatnot, and people made that a much bigger deal, than it ever needed to be. I mean, obviously Kenny Dillingham went to bat for him there. Even some of his teammates went to bat for him there, while others maybe not so much, but it was highly publicized there. And then he's on his visit to LSU, and everything's going great. And LSU, the deal is there. Sam Leavitt is going to commit to LSU on site. He is ready to make that choice. And then the Damon Williams news breaks, and there's the real awkward, interaction with Lane and Sam at, sitting courtside at the LSU basketball game. There was a lot of awkward interactions when it came to LSU basketball this year, but I digress. There's that awkward interaction, and he leaves without that, and all the Damon Williams news is out there, and LSU is heavily involved, chasing after him, and whatever reason that was for that, whether LSU had some questions about the foot injury with Leavitt, or if they just coveted Damon, whatever it was, it went, poorly there. And Lane had to go get on the because he had to go get on the plane, meet him at the Knoxville airport, and smooth over that relationship. To get Sam Leavitt's take on all of that is important, and you finally got your opportunity here today. Now, first, Leavitt will start, before we go with the airport, Leavitt will start with just his overall thoughts and the decision in ending up at LSU.
Portal process was pretty crazy. I didn't expect it to go in that direction. Just the whole situation, and then when I came out here, took my visit, just kind of fell in love with the place, fell in love with the vision. And, LSU, you walk around and it's a historic place and so many great players come out of here. And then you view, the players that you're going to play against every day in practice, going up against guys like Whit Weeks and TJ Daugherty, and Ty Benefield. It's a special situation for me to be in, just to be able to grind every single day and get better. That's ultimately the end goal. And, to come here and be with this staff, it's a situation where I don't really see how anyone can pass it up.
It's a great answer. Didn't expect it to go the way it did, but man, I got on my visit and I fell in love with the place and I don't know how to pass it up. It's a great answer. But again, you weren't happy when you left. We all know that. And we all know what went down. So, he wasn't let off the hook there, right? He was asked. It was Michael Cobble at WBRZ, our news partner, who asked the question about the airport visit from Lane Kiffin up in Tennessee. And Sam didn't have a lot to say, but he did address it.
I don't really want to go too much into the portal process, but yeah, he definitely did some great tactics from his side, and ultimately made the decision to come here, so that all worked out.
You would love to get more from him on that, and maybe one day we all will when the playing days are done and more comes out of that. You always end up getting the full story a lot of the time, especially in this day and age of the digital era. So you'd love to have more, but that's a really good answer from Sam Leavitt. All 10 seconds of it, that's a really good answer from Sam Leavitt. There says, man, look, I don't really want to get into much of that, but yeah, he had to smooth it over. He had to use his tactics and he had to smooth it. And ultimately he did, and I decided to come here. But that part of the story is extremely important because we can't just all sit here and paint a picture that this was never an issue. If it was not ever an issue, Lane Kiffin would not have had to board that plane to go up to Knoxville. I think we're all glad he did right now. And I think Sam Leavitt's very glad he did because I believe Sam Leavitt when he talks about being very happy with the way that this worked out. I believe him when he talks about falling in love with this place and all of that. He gave some great answers about Louisiana today, too, that we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. But that was a very real part of the portal process with Sam Leavitt. Now, while Leavitt didn't go too deep into it, Lane Kiffin, not necessarily asked specifically about the airport part of this, but Lane Kiffin was asked, all right, how'd you eventually win over Sam Leavitt? What was the recruiting pitch?
Well, I just think our quarterback development's an easy thing to sell. How well people play in a short period of time with us. Not that they don't have to come and wait a year and learn. And him projected to miss spring a lot and not be fully cleared in spring. We kind of sold, well, hey, look what just at the last place, without a spring, what the quarterback was able to do. And so brought in pieces around him. So I think it's kind of an easy sell.
The extra NIL money on top of everything after, you had to go meet him at the airport. That obviously helped too. But in listening to that answer from Lane Kiffin, it got me thinking. It's like, you know what? Yeah, you had this guy on campus. It was all set to be done. He was ready to commit. The DeMond Williams things happen. He leaves. He's upset. Is there another coach in America, though, that has a better chance of getting that player back in the boat than Lane Kiffin when it's a quarterback? I don't think so. Not a better chance. There might be others that have that chance, but it's for everything that Lane Kiffin just said in that bite. Well, look at our system. Look at the quarterbacks that we've developed. Look at the early success they have. Hey, Trinidad Chambliss got there in summer last year. That guy's potential favorite for the Heisman Trophy this year and led our team to the college football playoff and a deep run in the college football playoff. You have that to sell with a, hey, man, look, we didn't intend for it to go that way. Apologies. We really want you. If you're still interested, this is what we could do for you. Is there another coach when it comes to quarterbacks in college football that could sell that better than Lane Kiffin and get that guy back in the boat? I don't think so, no. That's my opinion. Not better. Again, not better. And to have the track record, it's why. As long as Lane Kiffin is the head coach at LSU, I will never be worried about quarterback play ever again. Ever again. Because with his system, his eye, his development, all his development, the talent, all that, it worked. Blake Sims was a wide receiver. He threw for 3,000 yards in the SEC under Lane Kiffin at Alabama. His ability, as Lane Kiffin always says, to adjust the offense to the pieces that he has, and the quarterback always factors into that, I'll just never be worried about it ever again. But I would also be lying if I didn't tell you, if I sat here and told you that I don't feel better that it's with Sam Leavitt and not having to have pivoted. Say you weren't able to get Leavitt back in the boat, and Damon Williams stays at Washington like he ultimately did. You would have had to really pivot, and there weren't great options out there anymore. While it would have been okay, because I just believe in Lane Kiffin that much when it comes to quarterbacks, to where I'm never worried, I'd be lying if I sat here and said that I'm not happy that it is going to be with Sam Leavitt here for obviously 2026 and hopefully beyond, potentially into 2027, because he has another year. Glad it all got worked out. They might not have gone too in-depth on it, but now it has at least officially been addressed here by both parties, and you can go forward with Sam Leavitt as your starting quarterback here into 2026, and hopefully he stays healthy, has an awesome, awesome season that launches him further into his career and leads to a deep playoff run for the LSU Tigers in 2026. All right, we still have more to get to from Lane Kiffin and Sam Leavitt actually on this show, but we'll grab a break. Before we do so, though, Parish Restoration, Matt's got some things to tell you about them.
AFR is brought to you by Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens, commercial or residential. As a matter of fact, Parish Restoration, I love the process, by the way. If you go to the website at parishrestoration.com, you can see videos of their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So you see exactly what it looks like. Very cool. But they have fogged, over at Parish Restoration, they fogged one of the largest buildings in the entire state of Louisiana. So it doesn't matter if it's your office building, your church, whatever it may be, school, or your home. They can even fog your car. Maybe your car has a weird odor, musty smell. Maybe you bought a used car from a smoker and you can't get that smoky smell out. This will do it. They'll come while you're at work, fog it. By the time you're done with work for the day, boom, you're back in a clean-smelling, fresh-smelling vehicle. It's Parish Restoration. Learn more at parishrestoration.com. parishrestoration.com. Do business with someone you know. parishrestoration.com.
All right, it was an eventful weekend, I should say, out at Saints Camp there in Metairie Airline Drive at the facility. More injuries, unfortunately, and another season-ending injury for the Saints along the line of scrimmages. You remember Brian Brzee tore his ACL on the first day of camp. Well, there's another one that's been added to the MASH unit that has been the New Orleans Saints here of recent times. We'll talk all about that next. Let you hear from Kellen Moore as well. Stick around. It's AFR.
AFR.
DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com. Go to DuplessisPools.com and start building your dream pool today. DuplessisPools.com. Hat tip to my friend Derek Duplessis and the great staff, as for the second consecutive year, Duplessis Pools was named a top 50 pool builder in America by Pool & Spa magazine. As a matter of fact, Duplessis Pools was the only pool builder in the state of Louisiana to receive that honor. DuplessisPools.com is the website, DuplessisPools.com. Yesterday was awesome. Me, Erica, Drew spent part of our Sunday cooling off in the pool. Might have had a cold Bud Light or two. It's a great way to spend those summer days. Great way to have parties, showpiece. That dream can be your reality as well. But start at DuplessisPools.com. You can design your pool online. You can finance it online. Pay for it right now. It's DuplessisPools.com. Check them out online. It's DuplessisPools.com. Tell you every day, better coverage for less money. And man, my friends over at Insurance Network of Louisiana are crushing it for Louisianians on their auto insurance right now. Listen, if you have not had anyone shop for your auto insurance lately, you got to call Insurance Network of Louisiana. My goodness. They got some top-rated companies, Geico, Progressive. They're doing awesome work right now. This was an amazing story that I heard. They wrote one last week, saved the client $2,911 annually. They had a high auto rate with State Farm. They smashed it with Geico. They had another one save $1,476 annually with Progressive. They had Allstate and switched. Y'all, I tell you all the time, if you're just auto-renewing your insurance, man, you're probably overpaying and you're underinsured. Let Insurance Network of Louisiana help. LAinsurance.net.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Saints wrapped up day 9 of training camp on Sunday down in Metairie. Off day here on Monday. They will be back on the field for day 10 on Tuesday. And hell, Saints play football this weekend. First preseason game this weekend against the Jaguars, so they'll have some joint practices with the Jaguars this week as well. It's going to be a busy week out there for the Saints at the facility doing training camp. It was a busy weekend as well. So on Saturday, Saints were out there, pads, all their stuff. And Dylan Radins, who was playing first-team guard, by the way, they had shuffled the offensive line up there. And you had Radins playing first-team right guard and Cesar Ruiz playing second-team center. Just because there wasn't a lot of, you need a backup. They're actually at center, and Ruiz can obviously do that. There's a play. Radins goes down. It's a knee injury. He leaves practice, does not return. And then on Sunday, after day 9 of practice, Kellen Moore had the unfortunate update on Dylan Radins.
Dylan Radins, is there anything update there?
On who?
Dylan Radins.
Oh, Dylan, yes. He tore his ACL. So, bummer.
Come on, Kellen. Like, who? The guy who tore his ACL. I say that because Kellen Moore also went through a full medical update that was 20 seconds, and he didn't mention Dylan Radins, the major depth piece who started games for you a year ago because of injuries on your offensive line, who tore his ACL. Who? Dylan Radins? Yeah. Okay. Bummer. Yeah, it is a bummer. Dylan Radins out for the year now, torn ACL. That's 2 for the Saints along the line of scrimmage. Of course, Brian Brzee on the defensive side, and now Dylan Radins as well on the offensive side. That stinks. There's really no other way around it. And I would also like to know, why is the New Orleans Saints offensive line cursed? Because they are. There's obviously some voodoo against the New Orleans Saints offensive line. I get it. I get it that everybody has nicks, bruises, and injuries along the offensive line in the game of football, particularly in the NFL. It is a physical position. I understand that. Like, you are very, very rarely, if ever, going to make it through a full 18-week season with your entire starting 5 along your offensive line intact. I understand that. But, man, it seems like the Saints just have worse luck than everybody else when it comes to that position. Now, I suppose you could look at this, and I hesitate to even say this because I don't want to frigging put this even out in the air, but I guess you could say, hey, at least it wasn't a starter. And you know what? Yeah, that's fair, but let's hope that it's not either ever again. Let's hope you can get that through. The Saints offensive line is cursed, clearly, and Dylan Radins goes down with a torn ACL. That stinks for him. He's a huge depth piece for you. As we said, with injuries last year, I mean, he played multiple positions along the offensive line for the New Orleans Saints a year ago due to injuries. You brought him back. Like, you were going to count on him potentially there, and you already saw him getting first-team reps, whether, the reasons that they want to talk about, fine, whatever. That's still huge. So what does this mean for the Saints, offensive line-wise? And obviously, we wish Dylan Radins a very healthy, speedy recovery, and that he's back ready to go next season once he's ready, whether that be for the New Orleans Saints or for another team. Hopefully he can continue his NFL career. Like, we obviously wish that for Dylan Radins. What does it mean for the New Orleans Saints and their offensive line? Well, it's a hit, particularly at guard. You look at this, and the Saints, they feel really comfortable about the pieces they've added, whether that be through the draft or free agency in a case like David Edwards. and you go left to right on your offensive line, you say, okay, Kelvin Banks here too, feel good there. David Edwards, obviously, Eric McCoy back, he stays healthy. You potentially have a top 10 center in the NFL still there. Cesar Ruiz, that's been the mixed bag that it has been. Come back to that. And Tali Fuaga. I think you still feel pretty good about your starting five, but it's the depth, particularly on the interior, where this plays such a factor. The first name that's going to come to everybody's mind as an opportunity for him is Jeremiah Wright, your draft pick, showing again the investment that they've made. I think many thought, hey, can Jeremiah Wright go in there and beat out Cesar Ruiz as a rookie and take that starting right guard spot? We'll see if that happens. Wright is dealing with his own injury right now. Remember, he had the shoulder late in the week in camp last week. And he was observing practice over the weekend. Still wasn't out there. So that's a guy who, yeah, obviously that's the first name you're going to think of. I did too. Say, okay, that thrusts him into potentially a bigger role. Can you go earn now the number one backup spot on there? Because y'all, the options behind Dylan Radins at guard and Jeremiah Wright, and really that's unproven. You don't actually know what you have in Jeremiah Wright. Sure, the early exposure, all the early returns have been good, but again, he's dealing with this. You don't really know what you have there. The options back there are after you get past those two, and now Radins is out with the injury. You're looking at Torres Simpkins. You're looking at William Sherman. For what it's worth, William Sherman went in for Radins with the first team because they kept Ruiz at that center spot for him to really get those reps in. But I mean, from a depth standpoint, does that really inspire a lot of confidence in you? It doesn't for me. And all it really takes is you're one injury away again from really forcing those guys into action on the interior. You lose anybody on the interior of your offensive line for an extended period of time in the regular season, and you're going to have to shuffle, and you're going to have some inexperience. And let's just call it how it is. Bit of a talent deficiency there, too. I mean, those guys are further down on the depth chart for a reason. Like Dylan Radins was ahead of them for a reason on your O-line. And that's very significant when you look at this from a standpoint of Tyler Shuck, his development, and taking that next step that everyone believes, myself included, believes he can take here in year number 2. Yeah, it wasn't a starter. That's a really key depth piece for you. And if I'm looking at that, I go, I don't feel great, kind of about the Saints' depth on the interior of their offensive line right now. So it'll be very interesting to see if they go out and add somebody. And I kind of would expect them to go out and add somebody, even if it's just to come in during camp. And can that guy you bring in, do you find something there? Can he earn the spot and bolster your depth? That's going to be very important in this from this juncture going forward for the New Orleans Saints. Now, the other part of that is Ruiz working at backup center and playing guard in all of those things and his reps. And Kellen Moore was asked about that on Sunday when he met with the media as well.
Yeah, just a couple bodies. We just figured, hey, we had a bunch of third downs as we're kind of going through the script, 2-minute third downs. Let's just get him, some guard reps there. Just kind of focus on that group to try and get some continuity going.
Some continuity going at guard. You kept him there at the backup center role after the Radins injury. When you hit the practice field again on Sunday, Ruiz was back out there at his guard spot, especially, and you heard those key situations because, well, that's your guy right now. We'll see what happens when Jeremiah Wright comes back, how that might go. If he can really push for playing time with the first team. If not, I think you kind of look at him right now, unless you go add a veteran, and you look at Jeremiah Wright and go, well, that's a guy you invested a lot with in the draft pick. Can he take hold of that top backup spot now when it comes to the interior and in the guard positions for the New Orleans Saints? Dylan Radins, that's a big loss in my opinion there, obviously, for the New Orleans Saints, losing a major depth piece along your offensive line and a veteran to boot. We'll see how they navigate the rest of the way through camp and obviously the regular season. Hopefully hopefully it's not a big deal. Hopefully you just stay healthy. You're one of those rare, if never, cases. And your starting five stays healthy, and Tyler Shuck has a great year, and the Saints make the playoffs and all those things. That's what we hope for. But that rarely happens in the NFL. So I think we know your depth's going to be tested along your offensive line at some point here in the regular season, and it'll have to be tested without Dylan Radins. All right, we are due for another break. Before we get there, though, Lee Michaels and Matt Moscona.
Quick reminder about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. They're the best. If you are, gentlemen, thinking about popping the question and you're thinking about where am I going to go buy that diamond, I want you to consider this. There are places that will sell you man-made lab diamonds, but what are you buying? It's according to its makeup and characteristics, sure, diamond. But is it going to hold its value? Like, is that the way you want to say, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you? Go to Lee Michaels. Go to Lee Michaels. Walk in the door. Experience the thing I talk about all the time, which is the Lee Michaels experience. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry with 10 locations. Baton Rouge, 2 locations in Baton Rouge. New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, Mississippi, Texas as well. 10 locations across 3 states. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Thrill her, gentlemen. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry.
Lane Kiffin, when he met with the media here on Monday, he talked about a lot of different things and a lot of different topics regarding his team. But one of them that he did finally tackle was 5-for-5 eligibility. I know everybody's had a lot of questions about that and how LSU might handle it. We'll let you hear from the head coach on that very topic next here on AFR, live from the from the Raising Cane's studio, presented by Relief Windows on a Monday. Stick around.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Don Moore, Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. You know those 4 locations, and what an awesome time to get by Clegg's Nursery because they still have every single day shipments of flowers coming in, plants, trees, shrubs. You want to beautify the exterior of your home. You want to add that pop of color to your flower bed, to your patio pots. Maybe you got unwanted pests like ants or snakes or mosquitoes, wasps. They can help you take care of all of them. Maybe you got weeds coming up in your lawn. You want to get rid of that. Maybe you got dead spots in your lawn. The horticulturists, the professionals at Clegg's Nursery have the knowledge, the know-how, the expertise, and all the products you need to win Yard of the Month every month for your whole life. Guaranteed. Actually, I can't back that up. You have to do some of the work, too. It's Clegg's Nursery. As a new partner on After Further Review, Hancock Whitney, proud to be the official bank of LSU Athletics and the New Orleans Saints. And oh, by the way, Hancock Whitney has been my bank for more than 20 years. They love to promote the Saints and LSU debit cards. Well, you look in my money clip, I've got the New Orleans Saints custom debit card, have for years. And I love that with Hancock Whitney, there's more than 180 full-service financial centers throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas. So no matter where I travel, I can always find a Hancock Whitney branch somewhere near me. And this is exciting. New Hancock Whitney clients can get up to $600 after opening freestyle checking and freestyle savings accounts and meeting requirements. So go to HancockWhitney.com/Matt, my name, HancockWhitney.com/Matt to get started. Minimum deposit, account opening balance, and other requirements apply. Learn more at HancockWhitney.com, member FDIC.
So when Lane Kiffin met with the media here on Monday after LSU's 5th practice of fall camp, I mean, he covered a wide variety of topics relating to the team. Sam Leavitt, like a lot. I mean, Lane Kiffin, he even gave an answer on like how the tight end position has changed in college football and why Trey Green fits that change so well. Like, it was a lot of different things. But one of the more interesting topics that I thought Kiffin discussed was the eligibility in the 5-for-5. Because when the judge out in Colorado, when she ruled that, okay, class of 2022, they should be eligible for 5-for-5 as well, that opened the door for a lot of players to come back into college football as long as they didn't sign a pro contract. And you've seen it happen. Missouri, Missouri welcomed back that defensive lineman. He's back with the team, and he was a major contributor for their team a year ago. Texas, last week, Texas brought back an offensive lineman, and he had minicamp workouts. Like, he was in minicamp with 2 different NFL teams going through workouts. He was undrafted, though, never signed a contract. He was literally just there for tryouts. So he was class 2022, 5'5". He was brought back. He's on Texas' team again. Like, we've seen this happen. That's just 2 examples in the SEC. It's happened elsewhere in college football as well after that ruling. And now there's other rulings about, okay, well, can you enter the portal or not? All those types of things with it. But the basis of what you need to know really for an LSU standpoint is, okay, is there an opportunity for guys to come back to LSU who were on the team a year ago? And that question has been asked so much. The one person, at least on the record, hasn't been asked about that was Lane Kiffin. Well, today, Monday, he was asked, hey, while we're on the subject of this, have you considered, thought about bringing anybody back from last year that now has eligibility remaining?
And really what's crazy, you start thinking about these guys, and I don't even know how they're going to be termed.
Hold on 1 second. We just had the misstep there. So has LSU considered bringing anyone back from 2025?
We look at everything, I think, and so we would be prepared for that, but I don't know what that would mean. You always got to look at who they are and how do they learn your systems and all those things to come that late. I do think, since you asked, that those kids should be able to go anywhere. They haven't been with programs for 7 months, and the programs that they were at, the coaches have changed at a number of them, and they didn't have a portal window. So I do think, her ruling seems like it's headed the right direction on that these kids should, if they get a 5th year, they should be able to go wherever they want, any conference, anywhere, because they didn't have a chance. So, and there's going to be places that don't want them back, because they're full or they don't need that position or there's new coaches there. So it'd be really a shame for anyone to limit these kids to where they could go back to, NCAA or conferences.
Okay, so Lane Kiffin basically said no. Just kind of without saying no. Not that they haven't considered it, but that, no, we're not really looking to add anybody. And there's a couple different reasons in there why. And there is one position that I actually think they should, provided some of what he said in the second part of that cut comes true. But we'll get to that. But why haven't you necessarily seen this from LSU? Well, a couple reasons that he just, one, LSU's full. Like, LSU addressed every position in the transfer portal just about that they really needed to. They addressed that. It's late in the process. It's fall camp, especially offensively, coming in, learning new systems, lanes, whether that's Blake Baker's on the defensive side, all those things. That makes an awful lot of sense. I look at this and I say, man, if this ruling would have come down in spring or in the roster building process, you absolutely would have seen LSU add or maybe even retain guys from 2025 because they have now another year of eligibility. But it didn't. This ruling came down in July when it's super late in the process. Also, if you look at LSU's team from a year ago, the way that team was constructed, there's really nobody to bring back. You had a lot of fifth-year senior guys, like a Jamari Butler, fifth-year senior. Again, you addressed edge, but as an example, Josh Thompson, offensive line, was a fifth year. He was out of eligibility. You had graduate students, out of eligibility at that point. And anybody who was a senior on last year's team that you would want to bring back was moving on. Anyway, A.J. Halsey was going to be a top 100 pick in the NFL draft. That was a senior. He would fall into this. He would have, but he's moving on. Barry Brown got drafted. Any of those guys, they were moving on anyway. Of the ones that you really look at and go, it'd be great to have that guy back with this extra year of eligibility. He could really help. But in the meantime, you addressed safety. You addressed Lord knows you addressed wide receiver. They built and filled in. Now, the second part of that Lane's talking about with the players who are still out there who should be able to actually enter the transfer portal and go wherever they go, he's absolutely right. how are you going to sit there and grant eligibility to these players who deserve it as well, by the way, because you're 5 years removed from that season, so they deserve that. But how are you going to tell them, well, the only thing you can do is go back to the school that you were at. You can't go anywhere. I understand there's not a portal window right now. Like, I get that part of it. And that's the answer, right? Well, there's not a transfer portal window. You did away with it. That's it. But you can open a one-time portal. And if they do, the one position LSU should consider this at is cornerback. Like, that's easy. You're set with Woodland and Pickett as your starters, and they're going to be really good. But your depth lacks with the injury to Aiden Andy. And you've brought in some guys out of junior college and things of that nature. But if you could find, if it's not too late, and you end up having guys being able to enter a transfer portal per se or go wherever, cornerback would be the one position I look at for LSU and I go get you a 5-for-5 guy there. That's coming in start. So there's not the pressure on him to learn the system and all of that and whatnot. But again, corner. LSU plays a lot of man anyway. I can't cover this guy. And have that as a depth piece where you really need it right now. But, it doesn't sound like they're super interested in that currently. What was interesting about this, and this is cut 15, Luke, was Lane Kiffin talking about how the 5-for-5 eligibility changes this current roster for LSU. And this started off of a question about Dylan Jones, the running back room, and him coming in and pushing those veterans. And Lane Kiffin answered that a little bit. I clipped it out. It's another cut that we might get to a little bit later on. Answered that a little bit, but then took it this way with the 5-for-5 eligibility in this current LSU roster.
And really what's crazy, you start thinking about these guys, and I don't even know how they're going to be termed, whether super seniors or whatever. All those guys now have an extra year. So really you kind of rethink your long-term projection of positions and plans. And, it's crazy to think, like, DJ Pickett has 4 more years now. Not that that's going to happen. But when we changed our board into their colors of their years and how much eligibility they have left, it was kind of crazy to watch. Whit Weeks has another year.
All of them do. Like, just about all of them do. As long as you don't have any holdovers from, like, class 2022 or beyond that, which you shouldn't anymore. At least very few. Basically, everybody's got another year. So how that changes stuff. Not just in the immediacy, but in the future. Roster building. You like a lot of these guys on the team. Like you said, DJ Pickett's that's never going to happen. We all understand that. But, that's what you're dealing with. Even Whit Weeks has another year. We all expect Whit to move on after this year. He kind of falls into the category we talked about with the guys from last year's team. But it opens all types of possibilities for other players on the team who maybe could seek entering the portal, but maybe you really like them. And because they have another year of eligibility now, they're willing to wait it out one more year for LSU. So it could completely change how you structure and build your roster this offseason, whether that be portal, high school recruiting, or any of that, because now virtually everybody on your team has another year of eligibility. They all have 5 to play 5. There's no more red shirt. Now, what we're talking about there, obviously, deals with health. You have to stay healthy and whatnot to really take full advantage of that. But it's one more thing for them to manage. But, man, I look at that and I say, that feels like that could be a really a positive for you if you have a guy that you really, really like. And, man, they weren't necessarily featured as much as you would have liked them to have been on this year's team. Maybe you get to the offseason, they're looking for the portal, and you can look at those guys and say, hey, look, we like you. You're going to get more opportunity this year. You have that extra year now. Why don't you stick it out one more season here? If it doesn't work, then by all means, pursue options. Like, that's a conversation that can be had now because of this. And LSU's got a very deep and talented roster at multiple positions where that very well could come into play. Just another thing to think about. And on the with as much of the forefront as this staff has been on roster building and construction, that kind of gets me really excited going forth, for LSU in this 5-for-5, what they have, whether that be in the immediacy or obviously in the future. Thought that was really interesting from Lane Kiffin here today. It's interesting enough that it stood out to me among all the other stuff that he really did talk about, in his 15-minute or so media availability here on Monday. File that away. It'll be interesting to watch. All right, we'll grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. Wrap hour number 2 up with Tigers in the Pros. It's AFR on a Monday, presented by Relief Windows. Stick around.
AFR.
Buying or selling, commercial or residential, think real estate, think Darren James. You want an unbelievable customer service experience? You want Darren James. It's part of his core values for Darren and his team. Darren tells me all the time, as long as I've known Darren, he said, my goal one day is to put myself out of business. I want to create such a turnkey, seamless, easy process for people to be able to buy and sell homes that they don't even need me anymore. Well, as Darren continues on that path in the meantime, he's going to help you sell your home. So if you need to sell your home, you want a realtor that quite literally sells more homes than anyone, you want Darren James. Last year, Wall Street Journal is listed the top 1% of realtors in America, Darren James. So need to sell your home fast for the most amount of money? You need Darren James. 335-7666, 335-7666, or agent225.com.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
We're brought to you by Supper Club. You can book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com. One of the things about Supper Club that I love is if you want to go to Supper Club and be a baller, you can do it. You want to go to Supper Club and order a $5,000 bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild, you can do it. You want to go have $400 shots of cognac, you can do it. You can have experiences at Supper Club that usually are reserved for Las Vegas and New York and Paris and Abu Dhabi. Like, that's here in Baton Rouge. But the thing you got to remember as well, if you want to go to Supper Club and have the best steak of your life and have a few appetizers, a dessert, bottle of wine, you can do it as affordably as any other restaurant in town. But the experience at Supper Club is unmatched. Introduced open seating at the bar, first come, first serve. So if you knock off of work, you want to head by Supper Club, you can walk in without a reservation, see if you can grab a bar stool or a table by the bar as well. Have a great dinner, maybe cocktail, close some business. Book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Back here after further review, Monday show presented by Relief Windows. Musso in for Moscona. Wrapping up hour number 2 of the show. We will do so, as always, with Tigers in the Pros. Take it away, Luke.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference.
We can do that again, though. I thought we had some pretty good stories there. I know, dude. Those
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
Use a lot of cleanup.
All right, Tigers in the Pros. Alex Bregman and the Cubs had a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals over the weekend. Bregman went 4 for 14, 2 runs scored, 4 hits, 3 RBIs, and only struck out twice.
Solid.
So, overall solid series for Bregman, and it was highlighted by a 3-hit, 2 RBI finale in the Cubs' 10-2 win over the Royals last night. Dylan Cruz and the Nationals faced off against Cincinnati over the weekend. Across the 3-game series, Cruz went 2 for 14, 2 runs, 2 hits, no RBIs, and 4 strikeouts. A little slow for Cruz.
At least the strikeouts weren't plentiful there. He'll get it. I have no doubts.
Yeah. Kevin Gausman took his first start as a Cubby.
Yeah, that's right.
Over the weekend.
Is that Friday?
I think that was Friday.
Yeah.
Did awesome. 2 earned runs, gave up 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, and went 7 innings.
Hell yeah. Love that. That was a big get for the Cubs, man. It really was. That was a big pickup for them as they make push towards the playoff and a deep run in October.
Agreed. Last but not least, Mr. Tommy White. The A's faced off against the Red Sox over the weekend in the 3-game series stretch. Tommy went 1 for 11, 1 hit, 1 RBI, and 3 strikeouts. Not that great.
Gage Jump was pretty darn good on Saturday, though. He went 6 innings. I think allowed two runs against. Well, yeah, they only scored 2 runs in the game. No, they scored a third in the 9th. But he went 6 innings and gave up 2 earned against the Sox. It was not. That's always tough for me, Luke. Whenever I watch a former LSU, really the pitcher face off against the Sox, because it's like I'm happy for him, but I'm also like, can you stop beating my team? And it's really the only time I get to be on like the other side of that. Like, you know how much fun it was in 2024 just watching Gage Jump dominate college hitters? It was like, man, so glad that guy's on my team. Now I get the other side of it where it's like, hey, it was just a lot more fun watching Gage Jump at LSU. Happy for him. So glad he's in the bigs and want nothing but success for him. But it's like, it was a lot more fun watching him do this when it wasn't at your expense. And it was at my expense Saturday. And that was a bummer.
Well, don't take it personal because it seems like everybody's beating up on Boston.
At least the A's are.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we've been hot. What are you talking
Okay, yeah. 8-game win streak?
I mean, so going into Saturday, they had won 32 of 37.
Okay.
And they were on a 9-game streak, and then they lost the series to the A's. I was telling Paulie this earlier. Like, since July, since the start of July, the A's have been their kryptonite. They're 4-3 against the A's and like 27-3 against everybody else. It's like, why baseball? Just because baseball. It's the dumbest sport ever, but it's also the best.
Either the A's or the Tommy White. It's going to be the downfall.
There we go. Look, man, Tommy, happy for him too. Dude was raking when he first got up there too.
He was.
Is that all?
That is all.
All right. Thank you, Luke. Tigers in the pros. It's after further review. We are just about set to hit our top of the hour break. Sports Center, obviously, to get you caught up on all your national headlines. And then we will be back for hour number 3 of the show. We'll kick that off with Ross Jackson. Busy weekend for the New Orleans Saints. 2 days of practices, another injury. They worked out a cornerback today in Terrion Arnold, or I should say hosted on a visit. Cornerback Terrion Arnold today. So there's a lot to get to with the Saints. We'll do all of that next here to kick off hour number 3 with Ross Jackson on AFR.
AFR.
Summer is here. Maybe you're looking to upgrade that ride before the family road trip. Get on by South Point Volkswagen, airline just north of Highland, or online at southpointvw.com. Southpointvw.com. Told you for years, they're Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. Maybe you need that full-size family SUV. Make sure you go test drive the Atlas. That's what Erica drives. It's the 3-row, 7-seater family SUV. Tons of space to accommodate our family, all our bags, all the beach stuff as well. Go test drive one today at South Point Volkswagen. Remember, you can shop them online, new and certified pre-owned. So if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, great selection. Say it all the time. They're the largest volume Volkswagen dealer. They move more new inventory, so they have more pre-owned trade-in inventory as well. So make sure you shop their pre-owned vehicles over at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland or southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction?